Hello everybody, and welcome to a new episode where we talk about PlayStation 5, specifically looking and going over some hidden gems and some bangers. Bangers are absolute must-haves, some of the best games that have come out, I guess this year and obviously in previous years as well, that I think are some of the greatest games that you can experience on your PlayStation 5. And hidden gems are just some of those games that slip through the cracks, nobody knows about them, so I want to bring some attention to those as well. If you're a fan of PlayStation 5 or anything else, I hope you are going to get something out of this. Let's get started, as always, with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Now, I know Ubisoft has been getting hammered hard this year, especially with their Skull and Bones and Assassin's Creed delay and all that stuff. But if you look past all of that, you're going to see a really cool game that they released earlier, and that is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. A 2D hack-and-slash Metroidvania, and one of the key things with any Metroidvania that comes out, it has to have three very good elements to it. Number one, it has to have a good design. If you don't have a good design within the confines of your game, you're not going to have a good experience playing it. Ubisoft nails the design. Great challenge, great level design, everything. You have to have engaging boss encounters. Yes, this game does that in spades. Some great enemy encounters, some very, very challenging fights. And finally, the third thing is platforming. You have to get platforming right. It can't be too difficult, can't be too easy. Now, admittedly, in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, the platforming is probably the most challenging aspect of the game, and it does require a little bit of patience and obviously a lot of skill. But there are sections in there that they have allowed you to bypass by just basically giving you the option to, port or travel over to the next section. So you don't necessarily have to do the really, really challenging parts of platforming, which is why this game is a little bit more accessible than some of the more challenging Metroidvanias out there. But if you have not played Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, you definitely owe it to yourself to try this game out. It is definitely one of the great releases that came out this year, especially if you like 2D Metroidvania platformers. Next up, let's talk about Cloa Fantasy Reverie series, a multitude of Cloa games re-released on the PlayStation 5. Now, I know you guys are not expecting this particular platform to make it onto this list, but maybe we'll get to another platformer later. But yeah, Cloa is actually an all-time classic, goes way back to the PlayStation 1. I think it does. If it goes further back, then let me know. But yes, Cloa series re-released, and honestly, they did a really good job of this by making this compilation. Cloa is just one of those strange platformers that doesn't feel too complex to begin with, but as you go and you progress further down in the level, things get pretty challenging. I love the character, I love the mascot. This is a combination of two games, Cloa and Cloa 2, and maybe someday we'll get a Cloa 3, but I don't know if that's going to be the case or not anytime soon. However, if you can't play the latest and greatest Cloa game because it hasn't been released, you can always go back and play these two games, which are platforming classics and definitely worth your time. I really enjoyed them. Some great platforming moments, a very unique style as you can see in the game, sort of 2.5D jumping around platforming, and just overall charming music, relaxing atmosphere, and at times a challenge. So Cloa, a hidden gem entry on this list. Now next up, let's talk about Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is a game that I'm currently playing, and I have never beaten Silent Hill 2, so I'm really having a great time with it. However, having said that, I can't talk too much about it because I'm still relatively early on in the game, but so far so good. Cannot wait to finish this game, cannot wait to talk about it, but based on my initial experience, I can tell you that this is definitely a certified banger in the making. So, more to come on Silent Hill 2 in future videos. A game that I have beaten, completed, but not only completed, also platinum. We're talking about Astrobot. I absolutely love this platformer. What a great entry from Sony, Team Asobo. Fantastic job on their end. One of the things that they do better than anybody else out there, and I don't care who it is, they really do implement the DualSense controller to a T, to perfection. And I absolutely love that interaction. It adds so much more to the gameplay, in my opinion. It makes the game way more interactive than it would normally be. Now, granted, the game itself, the platforming itself is phenomenal. Some great boss battles as always. Some very, 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 very challenging levels that will test your patience. But once you get the timing down, you will eventually get them. They're basically getting from, point A to point B, or point to the end without dying. There are no death run challenges that take a lot of skill, patience, and yeah, a lot of skill to complete. So Astrobot is just one of those games that really surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to be this good, and I guess that's the common thing that everybody is saying, because platformers are done to death out there, but really to nail a really, really good one takes a lot of skill, and they definitely showed that here. Definitely check it out. Next up is A Space for the Unbound. I don't know how to describe this game, other than the fact that it is a true hidden gem. Now, this is an adventure title for the most part, but it incorporates so many different elements into the gameplay. You have some sort of quick time events, some sort of a semi turn-based combat RPG style of system going on here. Not an RPG, combat system. You have so many other adventure elements within the game that sort of covers a interesting story. Now, the gameplay features some young kids, school kids, in Indonesia, so the environment is very different, the setting is very different. Obviously the sort of locale and things that you get out of a country like Indonesia are well represented here. At least I think they are, because I've never really been to Indonesia, but it was a really, really cool game. And for the first few moments you won't have any clue what the hell is going on, because it sort of goes into some weird stuff. But eventually you're going to start figuring out, okay, what the theme of the game is, what it's trying to tell you, and you are going to make a connection with the game one way or the other. But regardless of whether you like the theme or not, I think you will get a pretty good kick out of the gameplay itself. It's just so varied. I'm saying an adventure game out there, but it has so much more going for it than just that. Definitely worth checking out. I really had a great time with it. Next up, let's talk about my potential game of the year, which is Stellar Blade. An absolutely beautiful and amazing hack and slash combat with great graphics, 3D environments, amazing protagonist, and a great story, at least in my opinion. A lot of people don't really like the story of Stellar Blade that much, but I definitely enjoyed it quite a bit. Obviously, the star of the game is the combat, with a great system, fighting, blocking, and dodging. You incorporate all those three into the game, do it well, and you are going to get a good hack and slash experience. That's definitely what I got with this game, and absolutely one of those titles that sort of grows on you as you play. So initially you're going to be playing and it's going to be a little bit chaotic as you dive into the world and sort of learn about what's going on, but then things calm down a little bit. You sort of get that near automata relaxation as much as you can, because some of the boss encounters and regular enemies at times as well are challenging, and they will test your skills. But once you deal with them, you can kind of look past and enjoy the environments, what the game is trying to tell you. And obviously by the end of the game, when you've done beating the final boss, I think you will have had a great experience. At least I did, which is why I think this is a game of the year for me. Now let's talk about a big hidden gem for me. It is Star Trek Resurgence. This is a game that I was not expecting to enjoy as much as I did, but I really did enjoy it. It is a narrative-driven sort of your choices determine the outcome to a certain extent type of game. Some similar to the Walking Dead's out there and other games that do this similarly. But I really enjoyed the setting because I'm a big fan of Star Trek, especially the Star Trek Next Generation series, although I do like some of the newer ones as well. I think they're all pretty solid. Most of them are, at least. And this game really encapsulates that feeling of being part of just an amazing crew where decisions really matter. Your choices do affect the outcome. They do affect some of the characters in the game. So as a position of leadership, you are going to be making decisions that are going to influence the game one way or the other. The story itself is pretty interesting. It deals with a lot of tense moments and sort of sequences that will require quick thinking, for lack of a better term. But if you are a fan of Star Trek, if you are a fan of Star Trek The Next Generation, if you are a fan of any of those types of space opera dramas, then definitely check out Star Trek Resurgence, a great hidden gem in my opinion. And with that, folks, we are done with yet another episode of PlayStation 5 Hidden Gems and Bangers. If you have any games to recommend to me, do let me know in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.